medieval Europe, authority was enforced not just by law, by fear. Royals and clergy wielded instruments of terror disguised as justice. Today, we examine these grim relics, from the rack to the iron chair, the scavenger's daughter to the fork of heretics. Some are real, some legendary, but all shaped by supreme power. The rack, stretching truth from the bones. Imagine lying on a wooden frame, wrists and ankles bound to rollers. As the mechanism turns, your body stretches painfully. Bones dislocate, ligaments tear. Yesterday's identity vanishes. The rack, also known as the Duke of Exeter's daughter, was introduced into England's Tower of London around 1420 by John Holland, Duke of Exeter. Originally Greek in origin, it was adapted by medieval Europe to extract confessions in high treason or heresy cases. Victims like Anne Askew, the Protestant martyr, endured repeated rack sessions without revealing others. She was so injured she could not walk, and was carried to her execution chair before being burned at the stake in 1546. Some historians note the rack may have been rarely used, its brutality amplified in later retellings. Scavenger's daughter, compression under Tudor rule. The opposite of stretching agony, compression. The scavenger's daughter forced the body into an excruciating A-frame, knees pulled to chest, wrists clamped at shoulders. Blood burst from ears, lungs filled with pain. Invented under Henry VIII by Sir Leonard Skevington, this device trapped victims in vice-like compression. It served as a grim counterpart to the rack, designed to crush resistance rather than stretch bones. Known victims included Irish rebel Thomas Meagher, who carved on the tower wall, "By torture strange my truth was tried." He survived but never revealed allies. Also subjected were priests like Thomas Cottam, illustrating the device's use against religious dissenters in Tudor England. Its psychological power lay in its silence. Victims saw compression, not theatrics, and felt the pressure tightening in every breath. Iron chair, a torture throne of spikes and fire. Behold the iron chair, a throne no king sat upon. A seat lined with 500 to 1,500 steel spikes. A hole beneath for hot coals. A victim bound, unable to move. Every breath and twitch buries spikes further. Fire burns flesh. Confession or death comes slowly. The medieval origin of this reflective instrument is rooted in Europe, later spreading to Asia. Victims were bound, roasted over flames, and forced to watch others suffer. The sheer terror often extracted confessions without physical use. Used against alleged witches, traitors, or heretics, it was especially symbolic. A throne turned torture station. Death might take hours or days. Infection often followed even if victims survived initial agony. Heretic's fork and pear of anguish, tactics of pain and power. Inquisition-era interrogations turned cunning. The heretic's fork, a metal collar folded across the chin and sternum, forced victims to hold still. Tilt the head, and spikes bite flesh. Used primarily in the Spanish Inquisition, the fork's subtle cruelty preserved life while instilling agony. It coerced by discomfort and posture alone. Then there's the pear of anguish, often attributed to medieval inquisitors, but likely more myth than reality. A pear-shaped device inserted into orifices and gradually expanded. Pain intense, trauma long-lasting, though historians remain skeptical these devices were medieval at all. Breaking wheel and Cromwell's head. Public execution as state theatre. Execution wasn't just delivery, it was spectacle. The breaking wheel shattered limbs with iron bars. Victims died in agony, often displayed for onlookers. Known as the Wheel of Catherine, this punishment functioned as deterrent and drama, with limbs broken and body left until death, or seconds later by civilian mercy. In political vengeance, the restored English crown displayed Oliver Cromwell's severed head atop Westminster Hall from 1661 until the 1680s, a chilling symbol to former rebels. It remained in public view until finally buried in Cambridge over 300 years later. Myth versus reality, the Iron Maiden dissected. None loom larger in horror lore than the Iron Maiden, a coffin of spikes. But did it truly exist? The answer: almost certainly not. Historians now agree the Iron Maiden is largely a Victorian-era invention, first described in the late 18th century and popularized in 19th century exhibitions, not medieval justice systems. Reddit scholars reinforce this. They just didn't exist, like most popular misnomers the Victorians made up. Despite its absence from medieval records, the Iron Maiden remains a potent symbol of legend more than fact. Anatomy of power. Why these tools mattered. These devices were more than instruments of torture. They were extensions of authority. The rack, the chair, the fork, the wheel, they spoke to hierarchy, obedience, enforcement. By turning punishment into performance, monarchs and religious courts sent visible, visceral messages. Dissent means pain. Confession means survival. Torture served as psychological warfare as much as judicial remedy. But time changed. Enlightenment thought challenged cruelty. Legal reforms and human rights doctrines gradually phased out these horrors by the 18th and 19th centuries. Today, museums, like the Wakefield Tower at the Tower of London, display replicas of these instruments, not to glorify them, but to confront them. Their presence confronts visitors with a sobering truth. Unchecked power, when paired with fear, becomes cruelty. These relics are reminders of what history should never repeat. Power, unchecked, can wound more than weapons. Thanks for joining us on Kingdoms and Colonies Uncovered. If this exploration of medieval terror moved you, please like, subscribe, and tap the bell for more deep dives into history's hidden corners. Stay curious and question the legacy of power.